one by one. Start with John.
How can you tell us this move wasn't financial?
Well, it was a baseball-related move for us. We've been looking at making a move because we knew that this day with Dustin would come where he'd be coming back, probably since February, since spring training. We talked about different possibilities, when somebody will be ready, when they won't be ready. He talked about all different type of possibilities. So for us, it really is a baseball move, one that I talked to Alex about yesterday, Alex Cora. We were prepared to maybe go in a different direction with our move. He called me. It was about, I remember it was about 11:30 in the morning. I was getting ready to go for a run, and Alex says, "I've got a thought for you about what we're doing." And he said, you know, this is a move that I would like to make. I recommend making. Ultimately, it comes into my final decision, but he said, I really want to play Mitch Moreland more. He's a good player. He's played very well for us. I don't think that Hanley is a person that sits Hanlon on the bench well. It gives us an opportunity to keep Blake Swihart and also be in a position where Blake could get some more playing time. And so he said, this is something that I'd recommend us doing. And I said, you're sure? And he said, yeah. And he went through some different reasons behind it from his thought process. And what I asked him to do at that point was to make sure that he went to the ballpark, because he gets there earlier than me, meet with his coaching staff, and be in a position where that's what he really wanted to do. And when I got to the ballpark yesterday, Frank Wren and I drove over, and he said, this is what we would like to do. So we proceeded in that direction.
Sean on the right.
Dave, you, I think, acknowledge that it's somewhat unusual for a first-place team to essentially cut ties with the guy who had been its number 3 hitter for the first 2 months. What reservations, if any, did you have about this pretty dramatic move?
Well, it is. It is unusual, but you know, it's an unusual situation. Our club is quite deep. We really do like Mitch Moreland a lot. I mean, even to the point where, as Alex had mentioned, there were certain right-handers he was sitting him against in order to get Hanley more time. Hanley started off very well early in the season. It was tremendous. He has really scuffled over the last time period. I think everybody acknowledges that we're a better defensive club when Mitch is in there. And so we just didn't see the role that would be there as more of a support person, one that fits Hanley well. So it is unusual, but we also think we're pretty deep. You know, we end up getting Pedroia back today. He's not playing today because of just giving him another day, but he's available to play. We have a couple guys that we really like, and Nunez and Holt still on our bench. It gives us some versatility. So it is unusual, but it's also one that we thought, for the way our club stacked up, was the one to make.
Okay, Levin, back right.
Through this whole beginning of the season, you guys have played extremely well. And as you said, everybody's kind of felt like brothers and felt all together. And a lot of them have said that Hanley is one of the guys that really turn through the kind of lightning or kind of bring the mood, back to normal. Are you wary of how this is going to affect them, knowing that one of them is gone in the situation that you're in that first place, and let one of them awkward where to go?
Well, I'm sure that, you know, anytime you have a club together and you make a move with one of the players that have been with them, there's always thought processes, and players have feelings towards that individual. I think they also have feelings towards Mitch, and they have feelings towards Blake and Petey coming back. I think that that's one where I have a lot of trust in Alex, and Alex has a pulse of that situation. And he felt, when it came down to it, it was a move that, in that sense, he was not concerned about. He thinks that our club is a closely meshed one, and with the personnel that we have and the leadership that we have, that we'll be able to handle that part of it.
Okay, Rob.
Dave, why the abruptness of it? In other words, the other guy, as you pointed out, was hitting third for you all the way up until the end. And we understand that the upside of Hanley was said at the beginning of the year. So why just pull the trigger right now?
Well, I mean, maybe to you it seems abrupt. You know, it's really been something that, movement-wise, we've talked about all different type of alternatives over the last month or so. Alex really wanted to kind of run it out with him playing and see how it worked out. It was really a situation where he's been in the lineup on a consistent basis. And he just thinks it's been one where we've been working towards Mitch playing more, the way Mitch keeps playing. So we just think it's time to make that move, to put Mitch in the lineup more. So with that, it becomes the part of really not being in a spot where we think that he'll handle that other role as much as maybe others would. We don't think he'd be happy in that type of role on a consistent basis.
Okay, Jan, over here on the left.
How did Hanley take the news, and what was that conversation generally like?
Well, it was in the wee hours of the morning, first of all, I have to tell you, because it was after we got back here and in Alex's office. So maybe it was like 3:45 in the morning. So we felt it was better to talk to him then, and rather than talk to him back in Tampa and then him flying back with the club, and also wait until now to come in and talk about him. So I think everybody was really in a situation that with the wee hours there, he didn't really say very much. We thanked him also for everything that he did for us, wished him nothing but the best. So there really wasn't much reaction at that particular time, but again, at 3:45 in the morning, I don't think anybody was really exuberant at that time of the day.
Okay, Chad, right behind.
Alex has spoken very highly of him
Mhm.
since spring training.
Mhm.
Really committed to him as a number 3 hitter right away.
Mhm.
Was any of this kind of part of the plan from the beginning of let's run it out there and see what it's like, and it's kind of an all or nothing? He either is going to be number 3 hitter or.
No, not really. It wasn't that plan. That's how he thought about it. That's how he put his club together. I mean, you'd have to ask him that, but like for me, I really don't get involved in lineups, and because, for example, if he said he was going to hit Betts and Benintendi 1-2, well, I didn't really question him on that. That was his thought process, and it was the same way he's going to hit Hanley third, and how he puts his lineup together is pretty much. But no, that wasn't any type of long-term plan. I mean, the reality is, you can see we're trying to do everything we can to win. He was, in our opinion, scuffling at the plate at this point. It's been a while. And we just thought it's time to play Moreland more. And that's one thing. I will say Alex has continually said, I'd like to get Moreland in the lineup a little more. But, we have a solid club with a lot of versatility out there. And it was one of those that it's okay, it's time to do that, in my opinion. My opinion being Alex's opinion.
Okay, Tom, back left.
Dave, you talk about Alex belief or the organization belief that he wouldn't work well as a
Mhm.
reserve on the bench. Was that ever a discussion with him accepting that role? Was it a case of you didn't think he would accept that role well, or he wouldn't succeed in that role?
Well, we just didn't think it's a good role for him.
Okay, Johnny, right in front.
Any thoughts of Ramirez coming back and haunting the Red Sox either during the regular season or the postseason?
Well, it wouldn't shock me. Yeah, I mean, I've seen him rise to occasions at time. I mean, you kind of forget that last year when we went into the postseason, he wasn't in our starting lineup, right? I mean, Nunez was in, then Nunez got hurt, and then he did very well. Wouldn't surprise me that he could come up and rise to the occasion at a particular time, sure.
Okay, Kevin, right here in the front
So,
left.
Dave, yesterday you were considering a different direction
Mhm.
until Alex called you.
Mhm.
What role do you see Blake Swihart in now?
Well, he'll play a variety of roles still for us. He's going to put a first base glove on, which he has done before. He will start taking more ground balls at first base. I think Alex looks at him as a guy that could play there versus certain left-hand pitching. He could play there versus right-hand pitching too, but of course Mitch will do that most of the time. I think he'll get more at-bats at this point, now solidifying his spot on the team.
Alex, right in the middle.
So, 2 things. First, just to be clear, so you were willing to take the manager's input and just change, because you had told Nick, I think a couple days ago, that you had in mind what you wanted to
Mhm.
do. So, do you often take what the manager wants and let that kind of dictate the roster?
Well, I think you have to realize, first of all, we talk daily about player possibilities and player movements. And we, in this situation, have been doing that since, okay, what happens when this comes, this guy's hurt, since February. So this is not something that player movement-wise that we haven't discussed. We knew that sometime this was going to happen. And when that happened, there was going to be a person out, and there were certain possibilities that existed. Yes, I do take a manager's feedback into player movements like that. Ultimately, it rests on my shoulders. And, of course, call ownership when it comes to moves like this, too, so they're aware of what's taking place. But the reality is, yeah, I do listen to what managers have to say at certain times. They don't have the ultimate authority to make it, but, yeah, I'll listen to what they have to say. And he gave me a lot of practical reasons on his thought process.
On top of that, how much did you want to kind of address some defensive lapses that you might have seen recently?
Well, I don't think it was as much that. I mean, I think when Hanley plays first base, you know what you get from a defensive perspective. He's been okay. He's not Mitch Moreland, you know, as far as that's concerned. But if you hit a lot, you overcome that. So I do think we become a better defensive club when you have Moreland at first and Pedroia at second overall. But that was, and that makes us feel better. But I can't say that if he was crushing the ball that would have been the thought process.
Okay, Jason in the middle.
What kind of attempt did you make to satisfy Blake's request?
Well, I really, when it comes down to that, I really am in a spot where a player asking to be moved, and I just spoke with Blake, and he's absolutely thrilled to be here, and we think highly of Blake. It's been a tough situation, as I talked the other day, as far as playing time is concerned. Part of that is because we have a good club and we have a lot of flexibility with the guys that we have. But we like him and still think he has a chance to be a good big league player. So you never really, if somebody asks you to be traded, you listen to what they have to say. We've been empathetic that it's a tough role for him. His name has come up in conversations with teams. But it's also a tough role because other clubs haven't seen him play a lot over the last couple of years. So we hold him in high esteem. I will say somebody said something the other day about the request that we made. I would refute that. You know, I don't think that that's accurate. But we would expect if we were going to trade a Blake Swihart that we would expect somebody in return that we liked. Because we do hold him in high regard. And I just told him we still think he's going to be a good big league player. Now, how much playing time he gets this year still, that's going to be up to Alex. There is more of an opportunity now with some time at first base available to him. We think that he can still catch. If Alex decides to use him in that regard, we think he can still play the outfield. But we like him. We think he's a good player. And sometimes you have to ride these times. Sometimes you have to be patient. Sometimes things work out. Maybe he plays winter ball every single day if he doesn't get enough playing time at this point. We really thought he was going to play a lot of winter ball last year, which would have helped, but then he unfortunately got hurt, and he had started off doing great. And then he, of course, got married, so that interrupted that part of it. But we had thought he'd get more playing time last year, and he ended up getting sick, so it was unfortunate.
Okay, Nick on the right.
Dave, I was just curious about the process from here. Do you expect that it would be difficult to trade him, and he'll probably clear waivers and be picked up like that? Is that the scenario you envision?
I would think it would be difficult, yes, but you're still given an opportunity. But and then at that point, what happens is you have to make a decision and designate for assignment within 7 days. So if you haven't made a trade within 5, which would then be next week Wednesday, then you have to ask unconditional release waivers at that point.
Do you expect that somebody would pick him up?
I don't know. Probably, but I don't know that.
Okay, Chris, front right.
Yeah, you guys are struggling against left-handed pitching piece,
Mhm.
obviously, you did pretty well against
Mhm.
lefties, I think 333. What about him or his personality did tell you guys that he couldn't handle a platoon role with Mitch specifically?
Well, I think you'd be more from a manager's perspective. You have to ask that question. But I just think our feelings were that when we've had Hanley, and even in the time in the past, he's a guy. He's a guy that wants to play on a regular basis. And some guys reach that stature in their career, and you see what ends up happening. We just didn't think it was a good role for him.
Sean on the right.
Dave, you obviously got the looming presence of the vesting option sitting down the road.
Mhm.
How much, if any, consideration was that? And when you address Hanley perhaps not transitioning well to a reduced role, how much of that might have been tied to his unhappiness about not getting a chance to vest those plate opinions?
I can't answer the second part of it because I don't know that. That'd be something that he'd have to, and the vesting option had nothing to do with it because we're in a situation, as you can see, basically we're trying to do everything we can to possibly win. And so that would not be an obstacle in that regard.
Okay, just a couple more. Jen, here on the left.
Just a two-part question. Going back to that conversation I had with Alex yesterday, were
Mhm.
you surprised that he presented that, that scenario to you, or?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was surprised at the time. I digested it. I made some notes. I was going for a jog. I thought about it when I was jogging. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised, yeah. I mean, because that wasn't the direction we were going to in that particular time. You know, again, we have talked about so many different things. I mean, sometimes they're just ideas that are trade ideas that are just, you're just kicking things around. So I wouldn't say shocked, but I'd say surprised.
And in regards to Pedroia, have you guys mapped out kind of a playing time scenario? Are you assuming he's going to be able to play multiple days in a row, or what's the, I guess, plan?
Yeah, we have mapped it out. They filled me in. Alex has talked, of course, with Brad and with Dustin. We're not going to put him out there every single day at this point. We're going to be very careful in that regard. I think he's planning on playing him tomorrow. And I think it also will depend upon, I think he feels good, so he's not having any pain, so we think that he'll be fine to go out there. But we are going to be careful in that regard, yes.
Okay, any last questions for Dave? All right. Okay, thank you.
Let me just add one thing, because we made this move, you know, we recalled Dustin's rehab and then activate him today. But I just want to touch before I leave, because questions come about Tyler Thornburg, because we did recall his injury rehab assignment today, and we're keeping him on the disabled list. And basically what's happened with Tyler, he's doing very well. He's not having problems. But his last day for injury rehab is Tuesday. So that means he'd have to be activated on basically Wednesday, and he'd have to be 100% part of a bullpen to work numerous days. And he's just not quite there yet in his rehab. So we recall him, and that resets in a week the rehab, the number of days we can send him out once again. We're hopeful he'll be back as quickly as possible. He's very close, but we don't want to rush this process. We don't want to put him out there and have him pitch too often and it be a setback for him. So we sat down, our training staff, Alex, Dana, Tyler, and myself, and really everybody came to agreement this was the best thing for him.
So 1 week again?
He can go out in another week, which would be next week, Friday. He's going to stick with us during this time period. He'll throw on the side, continue to do his strengthening exercises, and then I can't say he's going for sure on Friday, but he's eligible to go on Friday.
All right, thanks, Dave. Thanks.
Okay.